The Projection Booth podcast is sponsored by Scarecrow Video. Try out Scarecrow's rent-by-mail service. Choose from over 150,000 films and get Blu-rays, 4Ks, and DVDs delivered directly to your door. Visit scarecrow.com today.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
People pay good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
Meet Ira.
Dear Samuel Beckett, I have always been a great admirer of yours.
He's a playwright
Ira Ellis?
with a day job.
Ira, the pose. We don't do pose, we do clap. Come on, over here. Move it.
His plays are a little depressing.
Life. 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 Death. Death. Death.
All that dialogue about life and death. I mean, life, death, it's just so depressing.
But what depressing is good.
Well, I thought it was excellent. I thought it was deep and very sensitive, too.
His love life is very anxious.
What are you trying to do? Pick me up or something?
Does it bother you I have no talent or ambition?
Oh, no, not at all. Like I said, Sharon, you're a very special person.
And he fears he won't ever get his first big break.
I loved it. I loved it.
Todd Solondz stars in his first feature film, Fear, Anxiety, and Depression. And it's a musical.
Ira, I love you. I love you more and more. Every time I dream, you're the one I dream of evermore.
Fear, Anxiety, and Depression. It's a laughing matter.
So special, and I'm
Welcome to the Projection Booth. I'm your host, Mike White. Join me once again is Mr. Mike Sullivan.
Tonight, we're all neat kind of guys, I gotta say.
Also back in the booth is Mr. David Rodgers.
No. I am junk.
We continue our month looking at comedy films with Fear, Anxiety, and Depression. It's the Orphaned freshman film from controversial writer and director Todd Solondz, who also stars as Ira Ellis, a frustrated playwright who dreams of making it big. He's torn between two women, one who likes him and one who couldn't care if he dropped dead. Guess which one he likes more. We will be spoiling this hard-to-find film as we go along, so if you don't want anything ruined, grab a copy off of YouTube and check it out. We will still be here. So, Mike, when was the first time you saw Fear, Anxiety, and Depression, and what did you think?
This is a weird one. The first time I saw it, it was on the Oxygen network, which I guess is now the Oprah channel, or who knows if it even exists in any form. I caught it. I was like, I guess home from work in an afternoon, and I caught it. And I think at that point I saw Welcome to the Dollhouse. So this was like an odd surprise. And it turns out that I've only seen most Todd Solondz movies one time. Like, I just can't revisit them. They're good movies, but they're difficult to get through. But this one I've returned to 5 or 6 times. You know, I actually really like this movie. But yeah, the Oxygen network was the first time I ever saw this movie.
That is so strange.
That's what I miss about flipping through cable. That's some of my favorite movies were just 2 a.m. flipping through. What the hell?
And David, how about yourself?
This is one that I probably watched, 25 years ago at this point. For the first time, I fell in love with this guy since Welcome to the Dollhouse. Of course, I was about the age of the characters when that movie came out, so it really spoke to me in that regard. But I mean, of course, then Happiness comes along, moves the needle further, and that's nuts. But I just love this guy. And of course, this is pre-torrent days or pre Netflix days or stream anything. As you'd noted, it's still hard to find. My movie knowledge was only good as what was on cable or in my local video store, and I had really crappy local ones. So when I went to college, the two movies I hunted down first at video stores was this and Pink Flamingos, just because I couldn't get them anywhere. So I went to I don't know if you call it famous, video store in LA, Cinephile, and picked it up, rented it, loved it. And then they said I never returned it, which was a lie, and charged me for it. And still bitter to this day about that. They charged me like $20 when $20 meant a lot. I mean, well, hell, still means a lot.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that, the $80 when they do the crazy original price tag rate,
No, luckily they were like, oh, well, it says $20 on eBay. So, thank God they went by that. But like I said, I fell in love with it the first time I watched it. Maybe love is too strong a word. I mean, this is definitely reeks of a first-time filmmaker. It's not quite as assured as he becomes, but still has a lot of Solondzisms, if you will.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one I saw first. If I saw this one first or if I saw Welcome to the Dollhouse first, because even though the video store that I worked at after college, so I worked at one Blockbuster while I was in college. After I graduated, I worked at another one, and the one that I worked at in college had like a ton of great things, The Kingdom, all these Almodovar films, really kind of not the most hip place in the world, but still pretty hip for Pittsfield, Michigan. And then going down to Southgate, Michigan, I was shocked that they had Fear, Anxiety, and Depression. And I don't think I knew who Solondz was. And I was just like, what is this movie? That cover art with him sitting on these bleachers. And I don't know if it must be Sharon who's doing like a headstand on these bleachers. And I'm just like, what is this movie? This looks like it's calling to me, because by that time, which would have been probably 95, which I know is when Welcome to the Dollhouse comes out. By that time, like the indie boom had really happened. That really happened while I was in college, as far as, your Rockwells, your Anders, your Tarantinos, your Rodriguez's. And so I was primed and ready for a film like this, where it was a first-time director. And yeah, I'm really curious if I saw this first or Dollhouse first, because I remember not necessarily caring for Welcome to the Dollhouse, just that uncomfortable feeling, especially all the times that Brendan Sexton's like, hey, I'm going to rape you, wiener dog. I'm just like, wow, yeah, this isn't great. And then, yeah, I do remember going to see Happiness at the movie theater, buying a lot of beers beforehand and sneaking those into the theater, being very embarrassed when the beer can rolled all the way down to the front row. But I remember laughing a lot at Happiness, and I'm not sure. I think that's supposed to be the reaction. Like when Philip Seymour Hoffman is talking about fucking that girl so hard that she's going to come out of her mouth. I'm guessing I'm supposed to be laughing at that. Otherwise, I don't know. Maybe I'm just off. The whole thing with Dylan Baker, that shit was so funny to me. So I'm not sure if I got that movie or not, but I definitely watched a lot of Solondz's over the weekend, and we can talk about that too.
I mean, if that was your reaction, I'd say you're in good company. I read through some of the articles, and I think, the cinema of discomfort, I think, is probably the best way to put it, because cringe comedy doesn't quite describe it, but it's especially Happiness, particularly the scene where he's having his therapy session and explaining about wanting to mow out a whole park. And I just died laughing. I mean, it's just, but of course, I mean, it's hard to, a first time watch, somebody's going to see that and see the surface level and not realize, like, do you hear like the flourishing music? Do you realize the satire that's going on here? No, we have to focus on the dead couple on the ground or what have you. For whatever reason, I've clued into his humor right away. And it is again, the cinema of discomfort is the best way to describe it, because you feel guilty watching this. I mean, I remember before I learned the strong lesson of like what movies you can show to which people, I showed my friend Storytelling, and he was turned off within the first 15 minutes of, like, I died laughing of Selma Blair going, oh, but he had CP. And my friend couldn't see past the satire of it. So I learned a hard lesson of what you can show certain folk.
Yesterday, I watched a ton of his films just to kind of catch up. And my wife was out of town. So I was just like, this is going to be perfect. She did see Happiness with Me. I don't think she necessarily liked it that much. I'd seen Palindromes on my own at a film festival years, 2004. But yesterday I watched Storytelling, Life During Wartime, Dark Horse, and Wiener Dog. And you can bet your bottom dollar that my wife came in right at the end of the movie when that dog gets run over 4 times. Perfect time for her to come in.
Yeah, that's rough.
I can see you really liking this movie, if for nothing else, the animated title sequence.
As many times as I've seen this movie, I always forget it has an animated title sequence. To me, it's like almost as if Uncut Gems has an animated credit sequence. It almost just doesn't fit. It always surprises me that it's there.
I don't know if it's his satire on films or, because anytime I think of an animated opening, I think of, some schlocky comedy, like Christmas Vacation comes to mind, even though I like that movie, but I just think instantly of shitty comedies. So to think of a movie like this getting the treatment.
I mean, there's elements of it, there's, hints of slapstick, but still it's not enough slapstick that there's, an animated credit sequence is justified. Because you're right, because you think of something like Tomcats or the later Pink Panther movies.
I can be a fan of them. I mean, I actually did a short film, and I was lucky enough to know friends in the animation department to do an animated opening for me, but it was also a riff on shitty sitcoms, so, it fit.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah.
All of the criticism that I saw of this movie, which was usually very negative, just immediately glommed on to this idea of Solondz doing a Woody Allen impersonation. I think that's a little unfair because I think that's just Solondz, period.
That was a constant criticism. It compared to Annie Hall. And there's only really, because I think any similarities between the two films are cosmetic. Because Solondz is like a short Jewish man with glasses in New York City, and he's neurotic. But that's where it ends. I think there's one element that has a very Woody Allen feel, and that's when Solondz is talking to Junk about the punk bands, and that has the rhythm of a Woody Allen bit. But here's what killed me about these comparisons. I was rewatching Take the Money and Run, and there's such a difference between the way Woody Allen plays his characters and the way Todd Solondz plays his characters. Woody Allen is playing his characters like a nerd, but there's a charm there. He's trying to charm you. He's saying, look, I'm doing all this here, but I'm still likable, and I'm still making you laugh, and you're still having fun. In Solondz, there's just this self-loathing is palpable, and he's just playing an almost charmless character. But I kind of prefer Solondz's. I prefer the blank face stares and just the weird seething faces and the awkwardness, because that feels more real to me. I see the Allen comparisons, and I'm like, this is the most shallow comparisons. I don't agree with it at all.
I mean, I guess for most folks, as you say, just New York, neurotic, glasses, that's enough. The only thing I will say is I think he probably learned pretty fast that it was just not the right setting for him. Even though I do like this movie, I think he learned some lessons from it and learned his voice, which is New Jersey suburbia. Yeah, it's not entirely fair to compare him to Woody Allen, but I mean, there's enough there that a hack reviewer can, point that and say, hey, he's just copying this guy.
I mean, I think if anything, if this was a parody of a Woody Allen film, it would be perfect. If he's trying to do that, if he's trying to make a parody of, I don't know, Hannah and her sisters or something, it's wonderful. I don't think he's doing that. I don't think that that's where he's coming from with this. I think he's trying to tell his own story, and he's telling a great Solondz story of discomfort. And this guy who really should never get ahead because he is just pretty awful the way that he treats Sharon, who obviously loves him. And Sharon always kind of reminds me of like an Elaine May character. But when you watch his play just called Despair, it's the worst thing in the world. I mean, the dude's landlord gives a way better performance than this play is. I mean, just the guy constantly life, 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 death, 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 and all the people flipping their masks, and the obvious symbolism that he's got the word son written on him and the mom and the dad. I mean, it's just so trite and so obvious. And I kind of love that Ira is trying so hard to make it. I mean, we opened up the film with him writing a fan letter to Samuel Beckett, and he's trying so hard. And then you got Stanley Tucci, and I think one of his very first roles is this movie, who doesn't try at all and just lucks into everything. And every single time he shows up, he's just like, oh yeah, I got this person looking at this, and I'm doing this, and yeah, this plays a hit and that plays it. He doesn't give a shit about anything. He just lucks into everything, and Ira's over there just seething the whole time. And I'm kind of like, good. You know, normally I'd be like, oh, I hate that Stanley Tucci guy, but I'm just like, yeah, Ira, you don't deserve anything either. So
He's a very sympathetic protagonist, if you will. Just going back, just to touch one last thing. There is one piece in this that I do feel like is a parody of a Woody Allen movie, whether intentional or not. And keep in mind, I've seen this movie probably 4 or 5 times, and I've seen Manhattan once. But I feel like the Ira song, or Ira, I love you, that montage feels like his riff on a Woody Allen love montage. Again, I don't even know if there is a love montage in Manhattan, but I get that feeling. Maybe just the Brooklyn Bridge. Their version of on the overpass as they're walking is a love scene, or I think they're in a dump at one point, or an abandoned building. That's the only piece that I feel like could be a riff, or maybe just a riff on love stories in general, or love movies, you know, the falling in love period, if you will.
My theory is that it was basically a I'll do anything. And I suspect that the original cut of this, there was more musical numbers.
That's what I feel like too. And the musical numbers, I think, are very strong. The musical numbers are way better than not I'll do anything, but I was thinking of Everybody Says I Love You, that horrible Woody Allen film with the music. Holy shit, was that bad. And this, I'm just like, yeah, I remember these songs from the very first time I saw it. I mean, especially like the whole thing with the junk song.
Of your days, I can see it in your eyes, I can see it in your gaze, so hey.
That's still in my head, actually. I'm kind of bummed I can't get it on Spotify. I might have to rip this from my video.
Yeah, no soundtrack album at all, unfortunately.
I mean, that's what's so frustrating about this movie is I wish some information would come out about the making of it. Like somebody, I mean, and on top of it, there's people here that I wish had longer careers, like Jill Wisoff. Well, I know she went into composing and that. I mean, there's a great character actor right there. I mean, the way she plays her character, she plays her like she's this hitch step monster from Ring. You know, like every time you see her, she looks like she just emerged from a well. And like during the montage, she has like these chickeny twitches. Like she's like the way she
in bed.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's really funny, and it's a shame that the movie wasn't a bigger hit and people could, you know, put her in this, put her in that. And like even like Jane Hamper, who plays Junk, like her character is basically kind of like a dry run for the character Lara Flynn Boyle plays in Happiness. The cast in this, I mean, well, of course, Stanley Tucci's in it, but like there's so many other people. I guess they were theater actors at the time. And so many of them I wish got wider exposure because these were some really good people in this cast, you know, and I really wish we could have heard their stories and like just stories of the making of. I know like Solondz just buried this thing, and that's a shame because it's good.
Well, she also reminds me a little bit of Elise Beasley, who played Agnes DePesto on Moonlighting. She's got that voice, you know?
I don't know why. Again, it had been some time since I had watched this, and in my mind, she looked more like Victoria Jackson for some reason. And her vocal range it's there.
Similar, yeah.
But no, I was kind of surprised. Memory failed me on that one.
There's also the third woman that's in the mix that I always forget about, the singer who's going out with his best friend, I guess it is, Jack. What is her name? Is that
Gersten? Her last name's Gersten.
Janice, yes. Alexandra Gersten as Janice. Who, it's like this whole, who would be the right person for him? And Sharon's the obvious choice, but then at the same time, I'm like, she's too good for him. You know, it's good that he doesn't seem to mind playing such a jerk of a character.
She was not right for him, as we'll find out in the end, which I just feel like Dan kind of says, you know, the right person ends up with who they belong to sometimes. Stanley Tucci sums it up. It mentions about how clingy she is, but that was what was right for him. I have been with quote unquote clingy people in the past and had to be honest, but you know, but Ira he annoys me so much with how he'll paint his toss and turn, like, okay, I'm done with you. Oh, I might have an inkling with this person. So I don't think it's going to work out. And then I'll come back to you because I feel guilty that you killed, you know, we'll get there.
I was trying to play both ends against the middle and I was looking for the next opportunity. It's like as soon as Jack runs away with Junk, then it's like, oh, well, cool. I will make some moves on his girlfriend. And surprisingly, she goes for it, which is shocking at all. And then, yeah, Junk just doesn't care at all about him. I love the first time we see Junk at that club and she's nailing nails into a corpse and she looks like the Bride of Frankenstein. That hair, I mean, I love her look all the time in this movie. Some of the outfits that she wears, just everything looks so good.
She like riffing on Lydia Lunch.
I can see that, yeah. And just this whole thing of her and Jack just constantly complaining about the gentrification and all this. I have been with people like that. I took this Mr. Toad's Wild Ride walking tour of New York with this person that will remain nameless. He's infamous for always posting pictures of himself with celebrities. And he's just taking me from place to place to place. We're trying to get down to like anthology film archives, but it's taking fucking forever because he has to show me everything and tell me why the world is so much worse now than it was. And I'm just like, you are the same age I am. You were 10 years old when 42nd Street was what you think that it was, you know? And just that whole like, oh, I can't believe this. I can't believe what they've done. What is this place? This used to be a great place. Oh, now it's this thing. All these freaking people come in and, oh, the bridge and tunnel crowd. I'm just like, get over yourselves, guys. Like, nostalgia is going to kill you.
The character of Junk just felt like, I don't know if she ever mentioned where she came from. She just mentioned suburbia. Like, I had to wear a dress, but she just felt like a valley girl that transported to New York and is trying to be a hip, cool performance artist. It just feels like a facade. She feels like she's wearing the costume of a performance artist.
Yeah, and I can really get that cinema transgression feel from her. Like, I can see her and Nick Zed and just hanging out, you know, over in Alphabet City. Richard Kern, that's the other one I was trying to remember. But yeah, the songs, I love the songs. And yes, I feel like there should have been more, could have been more. And yeah, I just feel like what was Solondz's version of this, because he talks about how MGM like took it away from him. I'm like, okay, but what's here feels very solid. Like, it doesn't feel like other things that we've seen where you're like, oh, wow, obviously this has been recut and other people came in here and did stuff. I don't get a lot of that stuff unless it is just shorter than it might have been at one point.
The introduction of Sharon is kind of like severely truncated because you see her on the subway and then all of a sudden, I guess her and I are in a relationship when he goes to that club. So there's elements that were just like, I don't want to say pared down to incoherence, but pared down to the point where it's like, okay, what? We're doing this now? Suddenly, this is one of those things years and years and years. And it's honestly, my list is embarrassing. It's like, I want to see Smokey as the Bandit. This is like one of those, I want to see the director's cut of Fear, Anxiety, and Depression, because I feel like we're missing so much here.
It feels like just snips and trims. I watched this 3 times in the last week, and I still, like you just mentioned, I'm like, where did their courtship start? I know that they look like complete opposites on the subway. Like they didn't know one another. Was there a conversation that was had? This also reeks of just a first-time filmmaker. He's still learning his flow. He's still unsure of himself. I mean, there are some sequences that are absolutely assured, but as a whole, but then again, I don't know how much of that is, if there was a director's cut, maybe I could be completely wrong. And this is the most assured thing we've ever seen from him.
To go back to the Alan comparison, I think one of the things is just that he likes to rely on, I don't want to say a shock cut, but more of like a unexpected cut, like when he's begging his folks for money and stuff. And it's just like talking about where he's working, and they go into the textile factory and you follow along, and then the camera moves over and he's there in front of all of the string. And I'm just like, okay, like that's a very Woody Allen thing. It might be just cut to him at the string instead of the camera move. But I was like, well, that's a nice camera move. This was not made with a lot of money, because you got a ton of just master shots going on here. A lot of one character just looking at the camera and talking to another character rather than any sort of over the shoulder shots. So that he is not shooting a lot of coverage. I'm thinking, what is this, 35 or is this 16 and blown up? Because the VHS quality is so shit that I can't really tell.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I mean, I would wager 35, but I could be completely wrong on that. Especially, I mean, he didn't do a lot of New York scenes, so maybe 16 would be a lot easier.
I wonder how much of this is stolen footage too. But
yeah, because I mean, especially that scene in the tickets line. Although I don't know if you notice, like in the background, I love especially watching older movies and looking at marquees. I'm like, oh, Action Jackson was playing.
I'd love that as well. Yeah, whenever there's a movie theater in a film, I'm just like, oh, is that a reference to something, or is that just real life on the street?
Oh, Mike, there was something I forgot to mention with the Matilda episode. There was a sign on the taxi cab that said, "Let's get it on, America." One of those weird, dated details, background details.
Yeah, I did like seeing the Burger King here, and that they really give you a lot of sense of where you're at. You can see a lot of street signs and everything. And yeah, it is interesting that this is like his big New York thing rather than life in the suburbs. And I don't know, it just feels very much like that first time filmmaker, like, oh, isn't the city crazy? I can't remember if he went to school in New York. I know his last movie, Shots Big Shot or Shots Last Shot, that was like actually made some waves for him, and he signed a bunch of contracts and stuff, and he was supposed to have like a 3-picture deal, and none of it materialized.
Well, I don't know if this is urban legend, but I mean, you've heard of the movie that Fox had offered him to do instead of this, or I don't know if it was instead of this, but they had offered him Revenge of the Nerds 2.
What?
Again, I don't know if this is urban legend, so I don't take it as fact, but I'd heard that for years, and it's probably for the best. But then again, I don't know. Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise, directed by Todd Solondz, could be awesome.
I just made a Hotel Coral Essex remark the other day.
Who directed it? Was it Jeff Canoe who did the first one, or?
I want to say Joe Roth. I don't know. Somehow that sticks in my mind.
It's probably right. I don't think it was. I think he was doing Troop Beverly Hills at the time.
Wow, you're right, Joe Roth.
I think somehow that stuck in my brain because he actually shot that shitty movie Christmas with the Cranks in my mall. Like literally, they set up Video Village in my store, so I had to deal with that for a day or two.
Yeah, it's a nice snapshot of late 80s New York. And yeah, this whole scene that is going on, like where you've got, the theater is such a big deal. The shows and everything, like you're talking about all the punk bands that he's mentioning at one point. Yeah. And I totally agree that feels very Allen at that point. I mean, there's elements of other New York films. Like I was picking up vibes of like After Hours while I was watching this.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But obviously After Hours is so polished compared to something like this, where it's just like feel the seams in it. But I love that. I kind of love these like early scrappy films from these filmmakers.
The club scene particularly makes me think of actually a movie far post this, which actually I was on the episode for American Psycho. Like for some reason, those club scenes just strike with me. And did you confirm this is Rick Astley on the soundtrack?
No, this is, what did I put down? It was Frankie. I think his name is Frankie Johnson.
Great.
And
great find.
And what shocks me about this is that Rick Astley, at one point, Rick Astley was so popular, there were sound alikes. And I thought he was like maybe a stock Aitken Waterman, like repertory player, but no, this was like, they were just completely ripping off the sound and style of Astley and that produced those producers, which is crazy to me. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I heard it and like just the tune of it, I was like, is that Together Forever? But then I was listening to the lyrics like, no. And then I was wondering, it's like, is this, did he like create fake songs for this to mock the style of the day? But I mean, in the credits, it shows like licensed from Warner Brothers. And so, I guess they were legit songs.
I think it was a minor hit in Europe, but I don't think it charted in the US. But yeah, it's a weird song just because it just seems like an alternate reality Rick Astley.
As soon as I heard the opening of it, I was just like, is this Never Gonna Give You Up? That isn't right. And then it started to change. And I was like, oh, is this like Rick Astley's follow-up song? It's kind of like Bruce Hornsby in The Range, where it's like, oh, did you like this song? Well, hold on, because all the rest of my songs sound exactly like it. And then, like you were saying, David, I really do see a lot of the other Solondz films in this one. There are a lot of other things where I'm just like, moving back home with your parents towards the end of the film. I'm just like, okay, this is totally like Dark Horse. And Dark Horse has very much that very unlikable main character as well, where you're just like, wow, I kind of hope this guy dies. And that's the great thing about so many of his movies is that he might switch protagonists anytime. You might just completely walk away from the person that you think is the lead of your film. He doesn't do that with this one, or he might switch actors or actresses like he does in Palindromes. But there's so many, like, storytelling was the film after Welcome to the Dollhouse. And for some reason in my head, I was like, oh yeah, James Van Der Beek's in that movie. James Van Der Beek's in that movie. And I finally sat down and watched it. I was like, watching the whole way through, and I was like, where the fuck is James Van Der Beek? Only to then go out and read, oh yeah, you idiot. There was big news because he was cut out of the film. There was a whole third sequence. But this idea of, here's one story, and then we're going to change, and we're going to tell another story, then we're going to tell another. I mean, it's very Wiener Dog in that way as well, where we just have these kind of vignettes. And this one, I know that was another criticism of this movie is, oh, it's just all vignettes. And I'm like, but what's the problem with that? Because they connect. It's not like you are completely cast adrift from one scene to the next.
Do you know how many popular movies are that way? I mean, the same year when Harry Met Sally came out, what is that but a series of vignettes? So it's kind of a shitty criticism.
What was people's problem with it? They just didn't, the characters, like the criticism of the characters were unlikable, but that's kind of the point, like it's a comedy. I mean, I guess maybe they just were so exhausted by the characters they just hated it. I don't know. like I said, I really like this movie. You know, I find it funny. I just never really understood the complaints, you know?
No, not at all. It's weird because we were talking about how the Sharon stuff doesn't really hold together for the beginning. There's also the moment where she's in the hospital and she flatlines, but then she comes back, and I was just like, is there another missing scene there? It feels like she suffered the brunt of the cuts. And then the whole thing of him towards the end, I know I'm jumping all around, but so towards the end of the film, after Ira goes through all of his ordeals, you know, is he going to be with Sharon? Is he going to be with Junk? Is he going to be with the other girl? And, you know, he's constantly like trying these different things, and, you know, he's always working on his plays and knows that he has to suffer for his art and all of this kind of stuff. Very, very pretentious. And I think that Solondz is just completely skewering the pretension that goes along with that. There's a moment where we cut back to a theater, and there's an obvious stand-in for him and an obvious stand-in for Sharon on stage. And I'm just like, fuck, is this Tucci's new play? Is this like his award-winning play is making a play about Ira and Sharon? Or like, did Tucci take Ira's play and like plagiarize it? And now here we're seeing it. But no, the biggest surprise for me is when we go backstage and there's Ira, and I was just like, oh my God, you actually learned enough to make a play about your life. Like, that's the most groundbreaking thing that I've seen you do, that you were that self-aware that you could make a play out of your life. That also reminded me a little bit of, I think it's Storytelling, the one with Giamatti as the documentary filmmaker, making that film about John Goodman's family and the dopey son. Scooby, thank you. And just when Scooby walks into the theater and sees him and his family up on screen and the audience is roaring, I was kind of hoping that it would be like Ira in the back of the theater watching people watch his life portrayed on stage and laughing at him. I think that that's where Solondz kind of evolves to later on. But for this one, it's like he gives Ira a little bit of good news, but at the same time, he's still just kind of a loser at the end of this.
Almost everybody's unlikable in this, including our protagonist. I wonder too if people didn't respond because of the satire of the culture was too close to the time, or the skewering. I mean, this probably would have been a movie that mostly would have only played in LA and New York, and you're skewering half of your audience. So I don't know how well that was received. With time, I think it's a great satire of its era.
Well, have you guys ever seen the 1996 movie, The Last Big Thing?
Oh, yeah. Mark Ruffalo's in that. Yeah, okay, yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of that because there's a whole thing in there about art and the passion. I mean, so many young filmmakers make these movies where I love the ones that are making fun of the passion. The ones like this, and I feel like The Last Big Thing are just like, people who are way into this really need to have themselves knocked down a peg or two. And that's what I felt from this movie. And so, yeah, I agree that showing this in LA and New York is probably skewering the audience that it's making fun of most.
I'm almost positive I saw this first, but I did see a screening of Palindromes with Solondz with a Q&A. And again, I cannot remember if I'm probably did see this first, but I really realize I'm glad he doesn't do commentaries. No offense to the guy, but his voice isn't the most inviting. And for a 90-minute ride, some folks may not take that, be adept to that. Again, don't mean to insult the guy. I actually watched some recent interviews. You got out of that, but it's definitely a character choice. Actually, I don't know. No, that's probably just him. With the interviews I've seen where he talks about it, or at least I've seen some video clips, and it just seems like he was really hurt by the experience. I don't know how much of it was the studio interference and how much of it was the criticism of the characters that are closely resembling him and how much he took that to heart. Don't know. That's just, my thoughts on that.
It's crazy to think like the failure of this like wounded him so bad and into teaching. Like he taught, was it English to English is a second language, I guess, to Russian immigrants. And, he basically had to be coerced to making Welcome to the Dollhouse, So again, this is something I wish we would get some information on the making of, and because I need to know, like, how bad of the experience was it? Like, what happened? Wait, how bad could it be that it drove you into teaching?
I mean, again, and going back to the studio interference, and now I don't know, because I mean that the subway scene, or rather the attack scene, if you will, any studio would immediately cut that out because it serves nothing narratively other than to show how much he doesn't care about this lady, which you have many other scenes to back that up as well. Which honestly, just to talk about that scene again, the subway station, not on the subway, but in the station, where they're walking hand in hand, she falls behind, gets attacked, and he's off in his own thoughts. I believe that's probably his very first attempt at that comedy of discomfort of getting you to laugh. I will admit to laughing at that the first time because I did understand the intent. Watching that today, I'm like, I'm sure even he would probably cut that scene out or tone it down, I would imagine. He seemed to have softened with age, or at least if you watch each subsequent movie, it's a little softer than the last. That's not to say there's not some edge to it.
After watching those last few films of his, which is amazing that he hasn't had a film out in 10 years now, and watching those, and I'm just like, watching one after another, I'm just like, okay, he's got a lot of almost imaginary friends, or like the people that will show up out of people's imagination, like the way that Paul Rubens shows up, and I can't remember the actor's name who's got the big scar on his head. And I always love that he picks such interesting looking actors, and to me, Giamatti does such a great job of channeling Solondz when he's playing that documentary filmmaker. People just kind of showing up, or like those little girls that kind of taunt Ellen Burstyn at the end of Wiener Dog. So he's like, got that going on. And then all of the stuff about child molesting. Holy shit. Like, I didn't even rewatch Happiness. I'm just watching the one where Allison Janney's going out with Michael Learned, and who's it? Karen, I can't remember the gentleman's last name.
Kieran Hines?
Yes. Yeah. Where he's the child molester coming back out of prison and stuff. And I'm just like, holy shit. Okay. You really talk a lot about child molestation in these movies.
That Q&A I did attend for Palindromes. And again, after seeing that, I'm like, okay, we're back to this well again. I'm like, hey, what's up with that? I mean, I was probably a little more eloquent at the time, but it was essentially at the heart of like, so what's up with the molestation going on here? Or, like, why is that a constant theme? Even in this movie where there's no children at the center or of it, but even Junk, admits to being, attacked or, when she was younger. Even though it's not the center of a story, or there's not a child at the heart of it, it's still somewhere sprinkled in there.
Wasn't that the premise of that movie, that it seems like it's in and out of production constantly, with Elizabeth Olsen, Love Child, where it's like the 8-year-old son is trying to sort of manipulate the relationship with his mother and her boyfriend, and there's apparently, like, from what I understand, there was like an Oedipus angle in it. So it seems like that is like a reoccurring motif in his movies.
That very soft children, we'll say, effeminate children, is a theme in his movies. And I say that because he goes out of his way to really cast very gentle children, we'll say, in his, particularly in palindromes and storytelling.
Well, storytelling, and then I'm trying to remember if it was Dark Horse. There was another one where it's like these children who are wise beyond their years, and yes, very soft-spoken and very manipulative.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Again, going back to that kid in storytelling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that whole thing of like, if somebody touches you, scream type of, oh, Jesus. Yeah. And the real shame for me is that, so I'm looking for books about Solondz while I'm doing my research for this. And there's that, I think it's the Refocus book. And I don't even want to look up the author because I'm just going to insult the book, because the book seems obsessed with box office.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you are looking at the wrong filmmaker if you want to be obsessed with box office. I've never seen so many charts in a film book. I don't know if there's pie graphs, but you get so many of these, like, different line graphs and all this stuff where it's like, oh, and here's the box office for Happiness. And then it goes down here and like each one. And he even said, there was some interview I was watching where he's just like, every single one of my movies makes less than the previous one. And I'm like, yeah, like if you are in this business to make money, sir, but I know that money makes the world go round and it's going to help him get his next film. But every single time he does make a film, it's kind of an event, and the casts are always just incredible.
I don't know if this is just one of those things where people, I mean, I hope that, they'll just work with him because they want to be part of his, oeuvre, if you will. But I mean, yeah, the last one had, was it Danny DeVito, Greta Gerwig, the Culkin that just won an award.
Yeah, Rory, I think. Greta Gerwig looking so much like Chloe Sevigny. It was crazy. I was just like, whoa, what am I watching here? Like the big glasses and everything. I thought for sure it was her. And then I was like, it's not her. Who is that woman? I had to look her up.
Yeah, no, he gets amazing cast. I mean, I think pretty much ever since Happiness on, because I don't think there was a named star in Welcome to the Dollhouse. I mean, well, Heather Matarazzo became after, but I was just speaking of, I actually have the Laserdisc of Welcome to the Dollhouse that I had her sign at a convention. And again, even then, strangely on the package of that, they're straight like, oh, a $6 million box office hit. I'm like, I mean, even in 96, that felt like, I get insiders know that it's an indie movie and that's a lot of money for an indie movie, but I don't know, just again, not the kind of movie you tout its box office.
Like, I understand that Solondz had a bad experience on this, whatever that experience is. And yes, we don't know all the details to it, but just trying to wipe it off of his filmography is such a weird thing to me. Just that so many people still, even like film literate people, will be like, oh yeah, Welcome to the Dollhouse. That was just for a film. I'm like, no, there's a whole feature before that.
Well, one of the articles even said that. It's funny. I read through most of the articles that you had in the Dropbox, and one of them went out of its way to say, yeah, most people don't even know that he had a movie before Welcome to the Dollhouse, and they quote that as his first. And then I read another one of the articles, like, oh, and his debut, Welcome to the Dollhouse. I'm like, oh, there you go, right there.
I know, it all stuck in my craw. And it is such a shame because it feels like, well, a lot of these actors and actresses wouldn't go on to make other things or many other things after this. So tracking them down is very difficult. And then Tucci's now too big to talk about stuff. He's too busy taking the women's hockey team and actually giving them something better than warmed over McDonald's. And then Solondz is like the guy, behind this whole thing, writer, director. And yeah, he just doesn't want to talk about it. So
it's crazy to me. Even now he doesn't. It's like, how many years have passed? Like, you'd think he'd loosen up a bit,
I mean, I actually went looking today and found a couple of recent, and by recent, I mean like 12 years ago, where somebody did ask him about it. And he just kind of just said, it was an uncomfortable experience. Basically, I think that's what he just summed it up as. It just became uncomfortable for him. It was just, and again, that's kind of what makes me suspect he may have taken the reviews too personally. I mean, in a strange way, the movie is a snake eating its own tail, commenting on the movie itself and his real life. Because, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure the love triangle thing is probably fiction. I don't know. But I mean, it certainly feels like his character, some of his experience. I mean, it feels like a personal movie, even if it's not. I mean, he cast himself in it.
Well, that's the thing I wonder too, is if this was somebody else, would he mind it as much? Is it because it's so personal because it's him in here? Is it just because it's based on his experience? Had he cast somebody else in that role of Ira, would he be as bent out of shape about it? Or did the attacks on him channeling Woody Allen become way too much? Because like you said earlier, every review is just like, oh, look at this nebbish Woody Allen clone. It's like, there's a lot more to this.
Yeah, I mean, and of course he's so much darker. I mean, I mean, I wouldn't even call him the dark Woody Allen. He's Todd Solondz. Again, I don't know if this movie also just made him run away from New York. I mean, other than scenes in Welcome to the Dollhouse and Happiness. But he clearly turned his camera away from New York-centric movies, which honestly, even though I like this movie, I am glad that this was the wake-up call. Whatever. I wish there would have been another movie or two in those 6 years, but if this was the experience that made him into the filmmaker that went on to do Welcome to the Dollhouse and Happiness, then he's all the better for it, I guess.
I mourn the fact that we didn't get Todd Solondz actor. And I'm not trying to be funny in this. I genuinely love him in this movie. And he's such an odd, he's like almost the anti-Eddie Deason, you know, like he's just such an odd, weird, like maybe not a starring role, maybe a side role, maybe a cameo. I'd love to see him more in movies. Like to me, he's like a John Waters type personality. It's like, I want to see more of you. I love seeing you, you know?
I kind of like his slower, when he gets into a slower speech. I think he could have worked with that a little better and become, a good sidekick comedian, or, you know, in movies, if that was the goal he wanted. I mean, he clearly steered away from it. He hasn't even like did a small walk-on role in any of his movies, at least not that I'm aware of.
He was a doorman in Happiness. And then going back to talking about James L. Brooks, he was man on bus in As Good as It Gets, probably the best part of that movie. But he had no problem being on screen. It was probably because of poverty, where, you know, he is the main character in Shots Last Shot. And then he's also the sensitive young man in Feelings. He was okay being on screen, you know, being that main character. But again, it might have just been, well, I got to cast myself because nobody else is going to do this. But also he portrays that skinny, gangly, like after he and Sharon have sex the first time, and he's just there, like giving that mortified look and just that skinny chest. And you get that same thing in Shots Last Shot, where he just trying to be this basketball player and just is so awkward. And just the way that his coach is like shoving him down to the ground over and over and over again.
I feel like the beginning and the end of this movie was a continuation of Shots Last Shot, which, you know, again, those scenes killed me with his screaming boss at the glass factory or glass installation.
Part of me also thinks that he wanted to reuse Feelings for Ira, that Ira, I Love You thing, but he couldn't afford the rights. So I guess he wrote his own song. Because that Feelings short feels like it could be a montage in Fear, Anxiety, and Depression.
Yeah, the montage of him and Sharon as they're going around the city, and like here's them over the bridge, here's them with her doing the graffiti. And of course, we get back to that later on, where now he's visiting all the places that they were and it's without her. There's a very similar montage in Shots Last Shot, where it's just like, here's him in this location, here's him in this location, and just him trying to get his shit together. And that feels very similar to what he's doing in this one with that second montage.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's clearly some themes in style. I mean, the scene that carries on into other movies, the Village Voice review, where everybody's reading in their own voice. It reminds me of that montage in Welcome to the Dollhouse, where everybody's praising Dawn. You know, like, I love you, Dawn. I've always loved you. Like he has certain, you know, themes or stylistic flourishes he carries throughout. I think the one big thing stylistically he moved away from this movie going forward is he slowed down. I mean, not the pacing of editing, but I mean, his characters became much slower. He doesn't have, at least, a fast talking neurotic in any of his other movies, at least not that comes to my mind. Maybe Dark Horse. I can't remember that one too well.
Yeah, that guy does not shut up very often, and he's so full of so many opinions. I see him as being a spiritual cousin to Ira. But yeah, you're right. There are a lot of more slower movements, a lot of more contemplative times. But it does feel like we're living, when it comes to these films, in a Todd Solondz extended universe kind of thing, the TSEU, where like even when Selma Blair shows up in another movie, I want to say that they say, "Oh, you were going to be a writer," or she says something about that. I'm just thinking of her story and storytelling, and it just, like obviously Wiener Dog. There's direct references to Dawn, and I can't remember the character's name that Brandon Sexton plays, but like totally different characters. Though I don't think that the Brandon Sexton character had two Down syndrome siblings or knew anybody with Down syndrome in Welcome to the Dollhouse. Obviously, I haven't seen it since 1995, so it's been a minute.
He does, actually.
He does? Okay. Holy shit. Thank you.
His brother is actually, that was a reveal in that he has a brother had a mental disorder.
Okay, so we really do carry on with all that stuff. That's great. I was very surprised that it wasn't the actual actors coming back with that movie, that they recast it with other people. But then that also fits with this whole palindromes thing where he takes an actor and has them change out midway through the movie.
Although strangely, he in palindromes, he also has the character that plays the brother, or the actor that plays Mark. I believe he's the only, to the best of my knowledge, he might be the only actor that's returned as a character, because everybody in Life During Wartime is different actors than Happiness. Greta Gerwig played Dawn Wiener again in Wiener Dog, which again, he also plays with mortality in his movies, because Dawn dies in palindromes and then she's back in Wiener Dog. He can kill anybody off, bring them back.
Well, it's just like the comic book movies, right? Tony Stark always coming back and stuff. So she is the Tony Stark of the Solondz universe. Yeah. Especially when she looks at the camera and goes, "I am Wiener Dog."
Yes, we need to have a Dawn Wiener will return in Avengers Doomsday.
Dawn, I'm putting together a team. It's her, Dylan Baker, Paul Giamatti.
Does he get to play the lizard this time?
He does get to play. Yeah, they've set up the whole thing. He finally gets to play the lizard. But we get to see when his arm gets cut off, though.
I know Welcome to the Dollhouse and palindromes have been put out recently, but overseas. I do have them, though. But I really wish, my hope is for Criterion to get the rights to Dollhouse, palindromes, and Wiener Dog and put out a box set called Pack of Wieners. I just really want it.
That would be nice. As I'm watching Life During Wartime, I'm just like, oh yeah, these do feel like the same characters from Happiness, and the whole thing of the child molesting. I was like, is this supposed to be the same people? So, because like I said, I hadn't seen the one in forever, so not since I saw it at the theater in '98. So I should have probably watched Palindromes and Happiness again, but there was just so much Solondz I could take in one day.
I mean, he's one of my favorite directors, but you can't do more than a double feature. And I don't know if I've ever even done that.
I had a great time watching all these back to back to back. And it just, because of the nature of him using these vignettes, like with storytelling, when I put on the next movie, it just felt like we picked up right where we left off. It felt like this was the next chapter of that storytelling story. And I imagine had I started at Dollhouse and worked my way through, it would have felt very connected from one to the other. And not just this whole idea of this TSEU, but much more of just like the way that he tells these stories and the way that he kind of has evolved over the years. I mean, now, watching, well, now as in 10 years ago, watching Wiener Dog, I'm just like, yeah, he's really got this down to an art. He really knows when to do what he does. And, I find all of these films entertaining. I mean, like I said, I was very uncomfortable with Dollhouse just because of the rape in that Brandon Sexton character, who I just found him to be one of the worst people in the world. I had a hard time even watching like Session 9 and stuff where that actor shows up again. Now he kind of reminds me of like, who's that guy that plays, I want to say Will Poulter? Kind of reminded him a little bit. Like I was surprised that Poulter didn't show up in Wiener Dog and kind of reprise that earlier role.
That guy, thinking about it now, I think he was pretty typecast for a while, because I would have to look it up, but I think he was also in Boys Don't Cry, if I remember right.
I think you're right. Yeah, and he played a piece of shit in that too. Yeah. I think he actually did rape somebody in that movie instead of just threatening.
He's a good actor. It's not the thing you want to be typecast for. What did you think of the transition of Sharon? I'm too attached to her character. I mean, just in general, I do find her character kind of annoying, but interestingly, very right for Tucci, or that character.
I preferred the lime green cloak Snoopy bag Sharon over the glammed up Sharon.
I didn't even really recognize her as glammed up Sharon. I didn't even recognize her that much when she was mime Sharon. She looks so different.
Yeah, it's just the voice is the only thing that connects it.
I love that voice. It's just so annoying, and it just fits with his voice so perfectly.
Ira's not the most sympathetic character because he puts himself in these situations, or at least he doesn't handle them well. And, I had in my memory that, like, he strung Sharon along, which he does end up doing in a sense, but I forgot, he does actually try to break up with her properly and break it off, the right way. But then I realized the predicament he's in, like, she's gotta handle that one very gently. She's as we find out.
Yeah, she swallows a whole bottle of pills. And we know that because we see them pull a whole bottle of pills out of her and read the label. I mean, and it's closed too.
There feels moments of fantasy in this movie. Like, is that real? Because it's so wacky that, like, I don't know. Is this real? Is this not? Because he plays with that a bit. And I mean, he's done that in other movies as well. Again, Dollhouse, the montage was not real. But I just got to wonder, like, how many things are just fantasy? Like, did she really get attacked in the subway station? Or was that just, Well,
I had a similar feeling about when he has the play towards the end, because it seems like you hear like a packed crowd, like applauding. And that to me almost seemed like fantasy. That almost seemed disconnected from everything that follows. It seemed like if people seemed to like it, there was like a Village Voice review in front of it. So it seems like some time had passed. But that was my takeaway from it. But I don't know.
I mean, it's very possible because, I mean, in that follow-up scene with Sharon as the mime, he even says, like, well, no, I had to put out of my own pocket. It was a failure, and I'm moving back in with my parents. So, again, was there real cheer, or was that just, fantasy?
All right. So even if you can make it as a playwright in New York and get your play up there and get something that people actually like that isn't so pretentious with the son character, love, death, kind of things.
But again, isn't that strangely prophetic of what this movie did for him? I know it wasn't his own money he poured into it, but it clearly, again, didn't bring him success. Strangely prophetic in that.
Well, and then, every single movie just kept making less money. I can show you some charts.
We talked about character actor. There is one other actor. It bugged the hell out of me watching his mother. I'm like, where have I seen her? Wherever, and then I had to look up her. Coming to America and License to Drive. That's just one of those that, like, stuck in my mind the whole movie. I don't know why that just stuck. Those are two strangely seminal movies.
Just wanted to say that Sharon had the best lines. One of my favorite lines is, Donnie asked me to marry me and I'm not even pregnant.
Thank you. I wrote that down too. And she says it so earnestly. But yes, there are some bangers in this. Some great lines if you are really keeping an ear out.
I love the moment when, I guess is it his boss at the glass factory when he throws him out of the window and we see the body fall and then we cut down to him on the ground and he happens to find a letter from Samuel Beckett back to him, just like, keep writing. I'm like, okay. It's a great way to end a nice bookend for all that.
And then, of course, it cuts to, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it, but one of my favorite things that he goes on to do particularly well in Happiness is the contrast of visual versus content, or if I'm saying that right. One thing I found interesting in hearing some interviews with him today was people asked him, like, what were the films you grew up with? Well, he's like, well, I didn't really grow up watching films, not until I got to college. So it was like television and Disney movies for the most part. And I think that really plays, particularly the TV stuff is in Happiness. Because one of the things that I love about his style is the contrast of content versus the surface. I mean, kind of like I mean, in a strange way, he's almost a lighter David Lynch. I mean, and thinking of Blue Velvet and Happiness in the sense that the exterior is so pretty. It's like this beautiful home, this, 2 cars in the garage, the wife and 2 kids. But then you got what the father's doing, or, that awkward, you can have a lovely, cut to the front of the house and, like a sitcom, and that conversation between, Bill and his son. I think he does that contrast so well of this looks perfect, but look deeper and there's some shit going on.
And I think Solondz is actually more unnerving because I've seen David Lynch movies more than once. I saw Happiness when it came to video, and I guess, what was it, 99, 98? I can't remember. I could never watch it again. And there's I've seen clips of it, especially the bit with John Lovitz. And it's a funny movie. It's just, emotionally, it's just too much. It's just too much. And this is a person who saw Salo like 3 or 4 times. I can't sit through Happiness again.
I think Dark Horse is the only one I've only seen once. I've seen his movies multiple times. Welcome to the Dollhouse and Happiness being my favorites. But yeah, I can't argue that point of that. It's not an easy one to go back to. Keep in mind, when I say I've watched it, it was when I was younger. I think there was a good space of 15, 20 years before last viewing. So
you talked about the television aspect, and I think, it's kind of bad that I watched so many all at once yesterday, but I think it might be storytelling where whenever you go back to the house where the family lives, there's like a little musical sting, like here we are kind of thing, like coming back to the Brady house type of thing. So I can really see what you're talking about with that.
Again, Happiness particularly, and again, I can't think of a musical sting, but I just always, particularly the house of the Petters, it looks so picture perfect, and then, not really. I always describe that to people as like, it's especially that particular section or that family in that movie. It's like Leave It to Beaver by way of Lynch, or by way of whatever depraved director you can think of.
But I do need to go back and watch that, though I did find that one, well, funny, but also very uncomfortable at times. I don't remember how he sets it up. I mean, obviously, I didn't remember certain things about Dollhouse either, but does he do like, here's all of Philip Seymour Hoffman's story and then here's all of Dylan Baker, or is it all cut together? Because in my mind, it's this scene, then this scene, it's like, it's all one big piece rather than sections.
It's all one. It's more like Altman, honestly. It's more like Nashville or Shortcuts.
Because it feels like in his later films, he'd be like, no, I'm doing all of this story and I'm doing all of this story. And I kind of appreciate that he is pretty gutsy when it comes to that stuff. And you being a fan of his, as the autobiography section of storytelling, the one with Vanderbeek, has that ever seen the light of day?
No, I can't say it had. I mean, not that I'm aware of. I really wish it had. I mean, it's, when you put in his short films, I was excited to see those. And then I apparently haven't looked for him for a while, because now I see like, oh, they've been on YouTube for 4 years. I guess I haven't looked that hard lately. I want to say there was like some other movie where he had some deleted sequences that are deleted scenes that he doesn't want out. Or maybe it is just storytelling. But now, to the best of my knowledge, nothing's come out about that, because the only thing I know about it is I believe it was supposed to be about a football player coming out as gay, is my understanding.
That's why when I was watching storytelling and the one son that's not Scooby ends up getting injured in the football game, I was just like, don't tell me that that's James Vanderbeek. I'm like, that's not him. Like, why am I not seeing him in this movie? I was so confused. Obviously, I was so confused. And yeah, another one where it's just like fucking John Goodman, Julie Haggerty, even seeing, I mentioned Paul Giamatti, but seeing like Mary Lynn Reshkub, or however you say her name, who I loved in Bury Me in Kern County, Selma Blair, and then freaking Xander Berkeley, who I just love whenever he shows up in anything. And then the freaking Conan O'Brien cameo.
Conan O'Brien, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, holy cow, this is great.
That dinner scene with John Goodman's family, where they're basically come to the conclusion that if it wasn't for Hitler, they wouldn't exist. And it's just one of those scenes where it's like, that's horrible. But like, then you break down the mathematics and then you're like, well, and again, it's just that like, you laugh at that and then you feel guilty. I'm like, oh shit, I just kind of laughed at a Holocaust joke, but it was a well told one.
It was very well told. Yeah. Again, I do appreciate just how much Jewishness he brings to these films, like the kid who's preparing for his bar mitzvah and everything. Some of that stuff, I was just thinking of the Coen brothers and especially A Serious Man. And I was like, you know what? I think I'd rather watch a Solondz film than A Serious Man again.
I gotta agree. That's the only Coen brothers movie. I think maybe it was just working on a level that I couldn't understand just because I didn't grow up in that culture. It felt very, you need to be a part of that culture to really understand the comedy of that one.
I'm not Jewish, but I can pass, but I couldn't understand that one at all.
I've been confused before, but no.
About me?
I worked in a predominantly Jewish area and I got confused a lot. I'm like, no, I'm Gentile, but I appreciate it. I think the only other thing I want to comment on, I guess we didn't really talk about it, is just junk in general and her outfit at the print shop. Not to protest too much, but I swear to God, it struck a weird memory. I'm like, was there an adult movie in the 90s where she looked just like that? Like, because it's very yellow. You can't escape how yellow that is.
Well, it's very Rinse Dream.
Thank you.
Yeah.
She wears a lot of primary colors. Like she's very blue when we see her at one point. I love that red outfit that she wears that just says hate down it. And it's funny because obviously I remembered that character and I remembered her song, but for some reason I kept thinking trash. And then I was like, no, that's Return of the Living Dead. That's not this movie. So then I realized, oh no, that one's trash, the other one's junk. And I think I like junk a little better. All right, guys, let's go ahead and take a break and play a preview for next week's show right after these brief messages. Looking for something superior to streaming? A place with more than 5 times the selection available on all of the other streaming services combined? Check out Scarecrow Video's Rent by Mail service. Select from an unparalleled collection of over 150,000 films and get Blu-rays, 4Ks, and DVDs delivered directly to your door. Get in on it now at scarecrow.com and rediscover the wonders of physical media.
Freddy Got Fingered promo, take 1 marker.
Do you like cheese?
Ooh, you can't hurt me! Not with my cheese helmet!
Do you like sausages?
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like some sausage?
Wheelchair! You like a rocket power wheelchair? Rocket, here you go! We want you to go to the movie. We don't want you to go away from the movie.
Got Fingered.
We made a movie!
That's right. We'll be back next week with a look at Freddy Got Fingered as we conclude our comedy month. Until then, I want to thank my co-hosts, Mike and David. So, Mike, what have you been up to, sir?
I'm in Shock Cinema number 66. I'll be in Shock Cinema number 67, which should be out sometime in the summer or sometime in the fall. Should be sometime soon. And again, I'm on Letterboxd under the name MagDumbPU. I'm not on it too much, but every so often I do reviews of movies like National Lampoon's Movie Madness and Stalked by My Doctor and things along those lines. So if you want to check that out, be my guest. Please check it out on Letterboxd.
I'm following you right now and looking at your favorite films, Screwballs, Class Reunion, Caddyshack 2, and Why Does Hair R Run Amok? Very good selection.
That sounds amazing. Screwballs. That was in the joysticks vein, if I remember.
It was. It's a Porky's ripoff. Yeah.
Love to T&A high.
I can vividly think of the cover, but I never watched it.
Yeah.
It was just hands grabbing asses or reaching out for asses.
It's like pulling a bra, like a hand pulling a bra. Yeah.
And David, how about yourself?
Can you hear me on another recent episode of Arizona Dream? But if you want to find me on Letterboxd, DVD_RDGRS, just like my name without the vowels. I just pretty much log. Maybe I should get to reviewing. I should be inspired to do that.
I just log. I don't review either. If people want to read reviews, I can pay extra. That's how cutthroat I am about my work.
Just real quick, not to go too off topic, but of that vein, you mentioned screwballs and all that. I was so disappointed. I recently went to a screening in San Francisco of Joysticks. Excited to go see this. Just flatline. Nobody, like, I don't know if it was just, it killed me. Like, me and my wife left halfway through. I'm like, I'd have more fun watching it at home than this audience. So, like, me and her were laughing at it, and like nobody else, like,
nobody reacted. Jeez. Wow.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I was just surprised. Like, wow. I thought people that would have shown up for this knew what they were getting into.
Yeah. I mean, when King Vidya shows up, the whole house should have just come down around your ears.
Right.
I was so disappointed.
I mean, that opening theme song, totally awesome video games. What the hell, man? Wow.
Just flatlined. I was so disappointed.
Well, maybe it was because I remember hearing a story about like when Monty Python was at the Hollywood Bowl and they were like, why isn't anyone laughing? And a stagehand pointed and it said they're all reciting the lines. Maybe that's what was happening. Everyone was like silently reciting the lines from Joysticks.
I'm going to reframe that in my mind. That's what it was. Dorfus maneuver.
Well, David, I wish everybody could see your Todd Solondz Twisted Sister shirt.
Oh, yeah.
That is listening to this, but I'm glad that...
Not a video podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad that Mike and I get the full bird's eye view. That's pretty awesome.
Very nice.
Well, thank you.
Thanks again, guys, for being on the show. Thanks to everybody for listening. Do you want to support physical media and get great movies in the mail? Head over to scarecrow.com and try Scarecrow Video's incredible rent-by-mail service, the largest publicly accessible collection in the world. You'll find films that are entirely unavailable elsewhere. Get what you want when you want it without the scrolling. And of course, they have fear, anxiety, and depression. If you want to hear more of me shooting off my mouth, check out some of the other shows that I work on. They are all available at weirdingwaymedia.com. Thanks especially to our Patreon community. If you want to join the community, visit patreon.com/projection booth. Every donation we get helps the projection booth take over the world.
Of your days, I can see it in your eyes, I can see it in your gaze. So hey, you don't have to be shy. You can call me I. Just look in my heart and you'll see a neat kind of guy. So many ways. Here's what I'm saying. Look in my heart and you'll see a neat kind of guy. Now I'm saying farewell to this girl who doesn't feel well. Her name is Sharon and she is so nice, but she ain't got any sugar and she ain't got any spice. So hey, you don't have to be shy. You can call me I. Just look in my heart and you'll see a neat kind of guy. Over and over in so many ways. Here's what I'm saying. Look in my heart and you'll see a neat kind of guy. Just look in my heart and you'll see a neat kind of guy.